Surya. Surya. Yeah, give the prayer.
O Lord, each morning when we start our day at home, bless us with a
Okay, okay, continue,
one
continue, continue, continue.
and love we share in your new morning with its light and for rest and shelter of the night, for health and food, for love and friends. Now guide us through another day when at home and when at safe from all. May I do all things I ought, in our minds, in our memory, our wills to do what is right. O God, grant us courage to seek truth and make us truly wise by leading us from darkness to light. May all in this world be happy, may they be healthy, and may they be comfortable.
Okay, all of you. So the last class we were discussing about amino acids, and we have seen what are amino acids and the characteristics. So so amino acids we have seen. Amino acids are compounds having carboxylic acid group and amino group, and all these amino there are 20 naturally occurring amino acids of L configuration. NH2 group will be on the left hand side. Out of the 20, except one, the first one, uh, all other amino acids, first one except that, all other amino acids uh, will show optical activity. And amino acids can be broadly classified as essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. Essential amino acids are the one which cannot be prepared in the body and it has to be supplied through diet. And non-essential amino acids are that acids which can be synthesized in the body, and glycine, alanine, all these are examples of these amino acids. And amino acids, since they have both acidic as well as basic group, they normally exist as a dipolar ion, or they form an internal salt by uh, the the carboxylic acid group and the amino group. Okay, and NH2 group is a basic group, so it will accept a proton from the carboxylic acid group, and it exists as a dipolar ion, which is known as Sutter ions. This is the Sutter ion that we have seen, and this Sutter ion will be amphoteric in nature. They will show both acidic as well as basic character. In an acidic medium, the CO minus ion will accept the proton and it will be converted into COH, and it will behave as a cation. And if an external magnetic field is applied, to which electrode this cation will migrate? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we have seen that it exists in the form of a Sitter ion. That is, it will be in this form: NH3 plus, C is there, H is there, and it will be having CO minus. And here you have an R group. Okay. Now, if it is in acidic medium, it will accept a proton. Proton will be added to this carboxylate ion, and it will be NH3 plus CH R COH. Now, this is a cation, and to which, if I are applying an external electric field to which electrode this ion will migrate. It will move towards what? What are the two electrodes? You have cathode and anode. What is the charge of the cathode? What is the charge of the cathode?
Negative.
Tell me something there. You are not familiar with these things. Cathode and anode, you don't know.
Minus.
Why you can't open your mouth? Then what for you are sitting? So cathode will be negative and anode will be positive. And this cation in an external field, electric field, it will migrate towards, since it is positive ion, it will migrate towards the cathode. And similarly, this ion in a basic medium, this NH3 plus will donate the proton towards this one. It donate the proton towards this base. So it will exist as NH2, CH, R, CO minus, which is a negative ion, and the negative ion will move towards the positive electrode. So in an external electric field, it will move towards the anode. It will move towards the anode. Okay, and there is a particular pH which is characteristic of the amino acid, and at that pH of the solution, this amino acid does not migrate towards either cathode or anode. So the movement of the ion depends upon the pH of the solution, and also it depends upon the number of NH2 or CO minus group, and the pH at which the amino acid does not show any movement in presence of an external magnetic field. That is what we call as isoelectric coil. It is known as isoelectric coil. And it is the pH at which the amino acid does not show any movement towards either cathode or anode in an external magnetic field. That is what we call as isoelectric coil. Isoelectric coil, the amino acid will have least solubility. They will have least solubility. So this particular property of the amino acid is used for their suppression. Okay. So this is about the isoelectric coil. You can see that the pH at which the dipolar ion exists as neutral ion, it does not show any migration towards electrode, cathode, as well as anode is known as isoelectric coil. Okay, so these are all things about the amino acids. Now, amino acids. So I am representing this amino acid like this: NH2, CH, R, COH. I am taking another amino acid, NH2, CHR, COH, and these two amino acids can combine together by the elimination of a water molecule. And when they eliminate a water molecule between COH group 1 of one amino acid and the NH2 group of another amino acid, there will be development of a particular functional group, COH. And this functional group, what do you call this functional group as? What is the name of this? amide. Have you studied this carboxylic acid yesterday? Did you discuss that this aldehyde ketone and carboxylic acid chapter yesterday?
No, sir.
There was no classes yesterday.
So, sir,
Yes.
aldehyde and ketones.
Aldehydes and ketones were completed. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
And this carboxylic acid is yet to finish. Yeah, okay. So this is called as amide linkage, and the amide linkage between two amino acid units, the amide linkage between two amino acid units, this is what we call as a peptide linkage. This is known as peptide linkage. So what is peptide linkage? What is a peptide linkage? The amide linkage found between two amino acid groups. That is what we call as a peptide linkage. And the dimer or the peptide formed as a result of the combination of two amino acids, we call it as a dipeptide. This compound will be called as a dipeptide. So in a dipeptide, how many amide linkages will be there? How many amide linkages will be there?
One.
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 And when three amino acids combine together, NH2CHR COOH, another NH2 CHR, as I told you in the last class, R group can be different or it can be same for the amino acids. If it is different, it will be a different amino acids. So here I am taking three amino acids different as well. Here they will eliminate two water molecules. CHR CONS pentapeptide likewise. And a polypeptide will have large number of amino acids linked together. So I can say a polypeptide is nothing but a polymer of, what is a polypeptide? It is a polymer of, what is
Peptide
the
bond.
monomer
Single.
unit? What is polymer of amino acids? Polymer of amino acids is a polypeptide. Okay. And normally a polypeptide which has more than 100 amino acids and which have a molecular mass greater than 10,000 U is called as a protein. So proteins are nothing but polypeptides. And so what is the basic units in the protein?
Amino acid.
Protein, amino acids. So amino acids will combine together by amide linkages to form a protein. And generally speaking, and a polypeptide which has more than 100 amino acid units and has the molecular mass greater than 10,000 unit is called as a protein. And each and every protein characteristic properties, and these properties depends upon the molecular mass as well as the sequence in which the various amino acids are arranged, the sequence in which the amino acids are arranged. And It is, as I told you, it is more than 100 as well as mass should be more than 10,000. But it is not always so. There are polypeptides which will have less number of amino acids, but they will be called as proteins, and they will be called as proteins find shape or conformation of a protein. So, for example, uh, insulin is a protein. Insulin is a protein, but it has only 51 amino acid units. 51 amino acids. So it is not always so. Generally speaking, it should be about 10, so it should be more than 100 amino acids, and the mass should be greater than 1000 unit. But there can be polypeptides or amino acids which has less number of amino acid units, but they will have well defined job insulin. Okay, and these proteins, and as I told you, proteins are nothing but polypeptides. And these proteins can be classified into two types. Proteins can be two types based on their shape. It can be fibrous protein, and it can be globular. The name itself indicates the difference between these two proteins. What should be fibrous? What should be fibrous?
Fiber texture.
More branches.
It is, yeah, not bronze. Just it is fiber like. It will be fiber like. And here you can see that the polypeptide chains will uh, be lying parallel, and they will be held together by hydrogen and disulfide bonds. So you will have the polypeptide. Let me represent like this. This as a polypeptide chain. You will have number of polypeptide chains like this, and these chains will be linked together, or they will be held together by the forces. Like what are the forces? It can be hydrogen bond, or it can be disulfide linkage, and it is thread like. Or and these fibrous proteins will be generally insoluble in water. They will be insoluble in water. And the best example is the protein which is present in our hair. What is the, any of the biology students tell me what is the protein present in the hair?
Keratin.
Keratin. Keratin is a fibrous protein, or the protein which is present in the muscles. Tell me.
Myosin.
Myosin. So these are fiber-like proteins which can be a thread-like. Okay. And the second one is globular. The name itself indicates the shape of the molecule. It should be spherical in shape. And here what happens is that the polypeptide chains will coil themselves around. They will coil themselves to give a spherical shape. Okay. Here what happens? Coiling of polypeptide chains will be there. The coiling is due to the formation of hydrogen bonds or disulfide linkages. So they will be coiled together, and they will form a spherical shape. And this will be generally soluble in water. Soluble in water. Example, insulin is an example. Is an example of this globular. All enzymes, hormones, all these are examples of globular proteins. Albumin, all these are uh, these globular proteins. So proteins can be two types based on their shape. Uh, we can have these two types of proteins. either fibrous or globular. Okay. So see here, this is the general representation of an amino acid. CHR, COH, R group can be anything, and it is CH in case of glycine, CH3 in case of R will be CH in case of glycine, which is the optically inactive compound. All other naturally occurring amino acids will be active, and amino acids contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And physical and chemical properties of amino acids are due to amino as well as carboxyl groups. Okay, and so neutral amino acids, acidic amino acids, basic amino acids. Okay, this is based on the nature of the groups. Then some contain sulfur, some contain alcoholic groups. Okay, so these are the examples of some amino acids. It is alanine, where you have same number of acid as well as base groups. Aspartic acid, which has more number of acidic groups, so it is acidic in nature. Lysine, this is an example of a lysine where we have two NH2 groups, so it is an example of a basic amino acid. Then serine, it has NH2 COH as well as OH groups. This is sulfur containing, so it is phenylalanine where it has a phenyl group. Okay, then amino acids are linked serially by peptide linkages. So what is the linkage between two saccharide units?
Glycosidic.
Glycosidic linkage. Here it is amide linkage. Two amide linkage. So two amino acids are linked by linked by a peptide bond, and is called as a dipeptide. Then if it is three, we'll call it tripeptide, and in large number it is known as polypeptides. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about the structure of amino acids. The structure of amino acids. And the structure of amino acids can be discussed in 4 different levels. It can be discussed in 4 different levels: primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. These are the 4 levels by which we can discuss the structure of a protein. And primary level, which is the simplest of all the levels, simplest, then second level will be slightly complicated, tertiary will be further complicated, quaternary will give the overall structure of the protein. And when you are talking about the primary structure of the proteins will have number of peptide chains. It will have either one or more than one polypeptide chains will be there, and in each and every chain, the sequence in which the amino acids are arranged will be different. For different proteins, the sequence in which the amino acids are arranged will be different. So how many amino acids are there actually? How many amino acids?
20.
20. So these 20 amino acids will be arranged in a different manner, different sequence. It can be to alanine first, then the cytosine or glycine, likewise. So any sequence you can have, depending upon the sequence, this determines the type of the protein, and the functionality of a protein will be determined by the sequence in which they are arranged. And that sequence in which a amino or the sequence of amino acids is what we call as the primary structure. So primary structure refers to the number and sequence of amino acids in a polypeptide chain. Are getting? It gives the sequence. So here there is a figure shown. You can see that the sequence is lysine, valine, likewise it is going on. Number of amino acids are arranged. And when it is arranged in a particular sequence, you can see that it will give rise to a particular amino acids. If somewhere, for example, if I change the position of valine and lysine, first two amino acids, if I change their position, it will give a different sequence, and the amino acid produced will be different. Okay, amino acids produced will be different. So primary structure gives the sequence of amino acids, and as I told you, the sequence, the primary structure is responsible for the function of the protein. And whenever you are writing the a polypeptide chain, always the NH and the NH group is known as N terminal, and CH group will be called as C terminal. And N terminal amino acid is is written on the left, always written on the right hand side. So in simplest sense, what is the primary different shapes in which the polypeptide chains can be? The polypeptide chains, they can coil themselves, and the coiling of the primary structure will give you the secondary structure, and which will give you the shape of the polypeptide chain. And these polypeptide chains in secondary structure, they are found to exist in two different forms. One is alpha helical form, and the second one is beta petal form. And here you can see that alpha helical form, the polypeptide chain is coiled themselves, and they are coiled as a result of the intramolecular hydrogen bonding. And the intramolecular hydrogen bonding is between amino group of one 10 and the COH group of another 10. So as a result of the formation of this amino acid, they forms a helical structure, a coiled structure, a helical structure. It will be alpha helical in nature. Alpha helical. This particular arrangement is called what we call as alpha helical structure. And this helical formation is due to the formation of hydrogen bond, and hydrogen bond is between the amino group of one carboxylic acid and CO group, carbonyl group of another carboxylic acid of another 10. This is here you can see NH group is linking of this 10 combines with the CO group of another 10. Here NH and CO. It is not of the same 10. And generally speaking, if you as a result of this hydrogen bond formation, what is the type of hydrogen bond form? What is the type of hydrogen bonds formed in this case, in this particular case, alpha helical structure?
Intramolecular.
It is intramolecular. And as a result of formation of intramolecular hydrogen bonds, there will be formation of a ring. Here I can say that from here to here, it will form a ring. And in that ring, there will be 13 atoms present. When they form a ring, there will be 13 atoms present. And there will be at an average of 3.6 amino acid units per each ring formed as a result of hydrogen bond. Each cycle, there will be an average of 3.6, average of 3.6. So I can say that the hydrogen bond is formed between first amino group and amino group of the fourth amino acid. Similarly, the CO group of one will combine with the amino group of the fourth. So when you are generally when you are taking when you're taking it generally, at an average, in a ring, when they form intermolecular hydrogen bonds, there will be 13 members, 13 atoms are linked together to form the what is that? The ring, and at an average, there will be 3.6 amino acid units. Therefore, we say that it will be 3.613 helix. Why do we call it as 3.613 helix? Because there are an average of, in an average, they form 3.6 amino acids will be there in a hydrogen bond, and there will be 13 members in the ring. So that is why we call it as 3.613 amino acids. So it will be having a completely cold structure. It will be having a completely cold structure, alpha helical form. The polypeptide chains, they will form all possible hydrogen bonds, and they will twist themselves, and they will be twisting in the right-handed helix screw form, or they will forming a right-handed helix with the NH group forming hydrogen bond, intermolecular hydrogen bonds with the CO group of adjacent 10. So that is what alpha helical structure. And the secondary structure is known as beta pleated sheet, where you can see that the polypeptide chains are stretched to the maximum. Here you can say one polypeptide chain is stretched to the maximum. Second polypeptide chain is placed adjacent to that. And these two polypeptide chains are held together by hydrogen bonds. And what is the type of hydrogen bonds?
Intermolecular.
It is the intermolecular hydrogen bonds. And it is forming a structure just like the drapery or a shutter. It is just like a shutter or a drapery. What do you mean by drapery? The folds of a curtain. So that is why we call it as a, yeah, so you can see that the strings are held side by side, and they are stretched to the maximum, and they are linked together by intermolecular hydrogen bonds, and they will have the shape of a drapery. That is why we call it as a beta pleated structure. So these are the two different secondary structures. So what do you mean by secondary structure? Actually, it gives the shape in which the polypeptide chains can exist. The folding of linear chain in the specific cold structure is called the secondary structure, and we have actually three types, but we are discussing only two types: alpha helical and beta pleated. Alpha helix is where the chain will be coiled together. They will be coiled due to the formation of intramolecular hydrogen bonds, and they will be forming a right-handed helix. Okay, and in beta pleated structure, different polypeptide chains are kept side by side, and they will be stretched to the maximum, and they are held together by intermolecular hydrogen bonds. Intermolecular hydrogen bonds. So it will have this shape. So you can see the shape itself. It is having a helical structure. It is having a pleated structure. Did you get it? Did you get it?
Yes, sir.
So the secondary structure gives the manner in which the polypeptide chains are folded, are arranged, and gives the shape or conformation of the polypeptide. It gives the shape and conformation. It gives the manner in which the polypeptide chains are folded. Okay. Chains are folded and arranged. So that is about the secondary structure. The next thing is the tertiary structure. So you can see that the secondary structure is more complicated than the primary structure. Are arranged to give the shape, and it can be alpha helical, where it will form a right-handed helix. It is due to intramolecular hydrogen bonding, and it will be coiling together. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And in the beta pleated structure, the polypeptide chains will be either running parallel or anti-parallel. They will be kept side by side. They will be stretched to the maximum, and the different polypeptide chains are held together by intermolecular hydrogen bonds. They will be held together by intermolecular hydrogen bonds. So that gives the secondary structure of this one. Now we are going to discuss about the tertiary structure of the amino acids. So this is the tertiary structure of an amino acid. And tertiary structure of proteins represents the overall folding of the polypeptide chains. That means the further folding of the secondary structure that will give the tertiary structure. And as a result of further folding, you will have a specific shape for the polypeptide. It will adopt either a spherical or a fiber-like structure. So the fibrous or spherical shape is obtained in the tertiary structure, and this tertiary structure is due to the further folding of the secondary structure, and the tertiary structure arises due to the folding and the bending of the polypeptide chains, and it will produce a three-dimensional shape of the protein. It gives the three-dimensional shape of the protein. Tertiary structure gives the three-dimensional shape. And as I told you, how you get this three-dimensional shape? It is due to the further folding and coiling of the secondary structure. Further folding and coiling of the secondary structure will produce a tertiary structure. And the last one is the quaternary structure. And a protein may have more than one polypeptide chains, and these polypeptide chains of a protein will be called as subunits, and the overall spatial arrangement of the entire protein, taking into consideration all the subunits together, that is what we call as the quaternary structure. So quaternary structure refers to the number of subunits and their arrangement to give the aggregate or the overall protein. That is the quaternary structure. So you can see here, this is the quaternary structure. It is a complex one. Quaternary structure, which is the complex one. So primary structure, only the simplest one. Secondary structure, tertiary and quaternary. The number of polypeptide chains, the number of subunits, determination of subunits, and their overall orientation or arrangement to give an aggregate protein molecule. That is what we call as the quaternary structure. Okay, so that I will show you again in diagrammatically. Primary structure, it is the simplest structure. It gives the sequence of arrangement of amino acids. Secondary structure, it is more complex than the primary structure, and it arises due to the coiling and folding of the primary structure. And two types are possible: alpha helix and beta pleated. Alpha helix will have intermolecular hydrogen bonds, whereas intramolecular hydrogen bonds, whereas beta pleated will have intermolecular hydrogen bonds. And here it is coiled together, and as I told you, it forms intramolecular hydrogen bonds and a cyclic structure where an average of 4 amino acids or 3.6 amino acids will be taking part in the hydrogen bond formation, and a 13-member ring will be formed here, intramolecular hydrogen bonds. And the secondary structure will fold and coil themselves to give the tertiary structure and gives the geometrical shape, three-dimensional geometrical shape. It will develop either the spherical shape or the thread-like shape, or it will appear as spherical protein or fibrous and globular proteins. And quaternary structure gives the determination of the number of subunits. What do you mean the subunits? What do you mean the subunits? What is the meaning of subunits? Can you hear me? What is the meaning of subunit?
Basic unit.
Not basic unit. It is the number of polypeptide chains. It is not necessary that a protein will have only one polypeptide chain. It may have two, it may have three. So it depends. This each and every polypeptide chain will be called as a subunit. And quaternary structure is nothing but it is about the determination of such subunits, the determination of number of polypeptide chains, and their overall arrangement to give the overall structure of the protein. So that